All right, good evening. The late edition of Daf Yomi on this, what are we up to? Wednesday night, right? Mm-hmm. We are sponsored for this month by Michael Tsaidi in honor of making his first forthcoming siyum in our amazing shul in Masech Horayos, Hatzlacha with making Aliyah, and in honor of his late father, Zohar ben Ruvain Olav Shalom. And we also have a sponsor for the month. Sponsors Moshe and Susie Feder, Le'ilui Nishmas, Mr. Feder's father, Aryeh ben Michal, whose yahrzeit was on the 15th of Elul, and Le'ilui Nishmas, Mrs. Feder's mother, Roiza Bas Simcha HaKohen, whose yahrzeit is on the 18th of Elul. What are we?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So, okay. Mm-hmm. Tonight, tomorrow, or just tomorrow night? Okay, whichever we are. The 18th. May their neshamos have an aliyah. Amen. And Daf Yomi for the week is sponsored by Rabbi Aaron and Evelyn Kaslasi. B'schus refuah shlema for Aaron's first cousin, Sarah Bat Aziza. Okay, we are about 8 lines up from the bottom. My time to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda had stated his position that we were counting how many of these bulls have to be brought if the community sins. He said that each of the tribes bring their own, and then he said, and the tribes that don't sin also have to bring. That was his opinion. My time to read it. Where does he get that from? Kasavar, Arba Kahal Yereim. There are 4 times that the word Kahal is written in the Psukim, from Vayikra Pasuk Parak Daled Pasuk Yud Gimel to Vayikra Parak Daled Pasuk Yud Daled. It says the word Kahal, HaKahal. It says HaKahal. We say it's 4 times, but really the word HaKahal appears twice, once in each pasuk. And he says that is basically 4 extra phrases, because Kahal and then the extra Hey, those are 2 different words. The congregation. So Kahal, HaKahal, Kahal, HaKahal. Right? It's written twice. Chad l'chayev. So now he's going to learn 4 things from those 4 words. Al kol kahal v'kal, right? Each one of the shvatim have to bring their own. So if they're even if 12 shvatim are do the avera following based in, all of the shvatim have to bring their own. V'chad lehora'ah tluya based in ma'aseh tluya b'kal. The second point of information is that the based in has to make the ruling, but the congregation has to be the ones who do it, right? In order for it to be able. V'chad ligreira. Third thing that he learns is the tribes that didn't do the avera get dragged along with the tribes that did, and they have to bring the korban also. V'chad l'shevet she'asa b'horaz based in, and also he learns that if there's an individual tribe that acts because their own based in, their own tribe is based in, they also have to bring it, which the other opinions did not hold of, right? They said it only applies to the Sanhedrin. He disagrees, and this is why, because he's got these 4 rules from those 4 words. For Rabbi Shimon Tlosa Kali Ksivi, Rabbi Shimon, his opinions are based on, his positions are based on the fact that the word Kahal is only 3 times, and that is HaKahal, Kahal, HaKahal, because he says the first Me'enei HaKahal Urchei Dekra. When it says Me'enei HaKahal, that's the normal way for it to, the pasuk should be written, from the eyes of the congregation. So the item is hidden from the eyes of the congregation. That's the normal way that things are written. So that's Kedamri, people say Me'enei Deplanya, something is hidden from the eyes of so-and-so. So that's normal language. Since that's normal language, there are only 3 extras. 3 extras means he's got 3 laws. What are his 3 laws? Chad l'chayva kol kahal. Each one of the tribes is going to bring their own. Any tribe that sins is going to bring their own. Utrei achrini. And what are the other 2 for? He learns a gzera shava between the 2 of them. Nemar lemata kahal. It says in the second pasuk, in pasuk daled, it talks yud daled. It says the word kahal. But nemar lemalad, it says in pasuk yud gimel the word kahal. Malahalan based imam kahal. Just like when it talks about. In the first place, it says that the congregation and the based in don't know about the law. So Afkan, based in Im HaKahal, it says also when they're bringing the sacrifice, the based in brings it, not just the congregation. That's why Reb Shimon is of the opinion that if 7 tribes do the Avera, they bring 8 korbanos. 7 tribes plus 1 based in. That's where he gets it from. For Rabbi Meir is the opinion that says only the based in brings it. Where does he get that from? Because he says, Kahal HaKahal lo dorish. He does not learn that the extra Hey is extra ever. So the word HaKahal is written. So therefore, Hilkach Trei Kahali Ksivi. Therefore, he only has 2 words to worry about. So what are his 2 laws? Miboile. So he needs them. Lenemar, as it says, Lamata Kahal, Venemar Lamala Kahal. He says that it's a Gzera Shava also. And he says like this, Malahal and based in Velot Tzibor, just like in the first ruling, it's talking about that who's making the ruling that makes everybody messed up. The based in does, not the congregation. Avkan based in Velot Tzibor, so too, when they're bringing the sacrifice, the based in brings it, not the congregation. That's how the 3 different opinions get their rules that we discussed yesterday. Rabbi Shimon Elazar, my taima, what is Rabbi Shimon Elazar? He's the one who said that according to Rabbi Meir, you need a majority of either the tribes or the majority of the people, but not both. So, because so it says that if the item is hidden from the eyes of the congregation, which means not the entire congregation, so only some of the people of the congregation, alma miuta dichsiv me'enei. So he says that would seem to imply the minority of the congregation, right? Even if you had anybody in the congregation as well. Uksiv, then the pasuk says ki lechol ha'am bishgaga, that you need the entire nation to do this with negligence. So lememra deruba in miutalo, that seems to imply that you need the majority, not the minority. Obviously, the entire, as we said, the entire doesn't mean the entire. The entire means the majority. So we've got one pasuk that implies the minority, the other pasuk implies the majority. How do you mesh these two psukim together? Asu vav vehein rubo shakal. The answer is, if you've got a majority in one sense, but not the other sense. Let's say you've got 6 tribes that did the Avera. You don't have a majority of the tribes, but you do have a majority of the population. Or perhaps the other case, Zion, if you've got 7 tribes, in which case you have the majority of tribes, Afal Bisha in Rubo Shakal, even though they're not the majority of population, Chayavin, he's going to say that they are liable in any event. According to Rabbi Meir, a basin has to bring the korban. Hey, Amid Beis. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Meir, Dehora Tluya Bebeistin. So Shimon and Rabbi Meir, right? They say that the Horayos tluya bebeistin u'maisa tali bekahal minalahu. Where did they learn the rule that it's not from these psukim that we just quoted? Where's their source for the rule that beistin has to be the one who teaches the law and the congregation is the one who has to mess it up, right? That we said according to Rabbi Yehuda was, right? That we said we see that he had 4 of the words, one of them was used for that purpose. What is everybody else? Where does everybody else learn it from? So Amar Rabbi says, Damar Kral, the pasuk says, if from the eyes of the congregation, this thing was done with negligence. So therefore it needs to be done by the congregation with negligence. That's the source. Amar Rava says, Mi lechol ha'am bishgaga. He says, the pasuk says, from all of the nation with negligence. That's to be done in the majority of the population with negligence. Utsricha. Now I need both of those psukim. Actually, they're not exclusive drashos. They are together to prove the total point. If you only had the first pasuk that said, from the eyes of the congregation, this was done with negligence, I would have thought. Even if I had the minority of the congregation, because it says, some of the people, any of the people in the congregation. It doesn't necessarily prove the majority. So therefore, the other one says you need all of them, which means the majority. Because of and if you had the pasuk that says you need all of them, of the Beistin, Bahaderuva, I might have thought that you need the Beistin to be doing it together with them. That's why you need the other pasuk that says, no, from the congregation they do it, right? The congregation's one has to do it. Yeah, but the problem is, these 2 psukim are not talking about the Parha Elam Davar. They're not talking about the sacrifice that we're talking, the bull. This is talking about the offering that was brought by, if the teaching happened to be about Avodah Zarah. If it has to be Avodah Zarah, then we learned it was a bull and a goat, right? Bull, which was brought not as a chatas, but as an olah, and the goat, which was brought as a sin offering. So that's not the same offering. So the answer is, Yalfinan me'enei me'enei. We have a Gzera Shava. Gzera Shava is written by idol worship and by this this bull, and both words are the same, so therefore the rule is the same. You need to have the congregation doing the Avera and based in not. Horu based in shel echad. Now, let's say Rabbi Yehuda's law is if one of the tribe's based-ins, they say it, then that tribe follows it, so then they have to bring a korban. Iboilu. So here's the question. Shebat echad Rabbi Yehuda, Behoras based in Hagodol, Mimaisu, Shar Shvatim. Okay, we know that if one of the tribe's own basins tells everybody and they make the mistake themselves, they're the only tribe that brings. What if it's the Sanhedrin, which is in charge of everybody, and only one tribe does it? According to Rabbi Yehuda, did the other 11 tribes bring it? We know that he holds they usually have to fill in. What if it's the minority? Then do they have to fill in? Oh, no. So, or not. Mi amrinon shiva shvatim hu demaisu. Do we say that he needs the majority? Once 7 tribes have brought it, have done the Avera, then the other 5 get swept in. Shar shvatim b'hadayu, the other ones go in also. Mishum de'ikaruba, because we've got the majority. So basically, you've got the double activation. You've got the Sanhedrin plus the majority, and that's what it needs to activate. Ava chad shevet deleka ruba lo, but if it was only one tribe, no. O Dilmar, perhaps lo shna makes no difference. Once somebody does it, once you have one congregation that does it, one of the shvatim, then everybody else has to jump in. So which is the way that we hold? So Toshma, come and listen. Ma hein meviin par echad. I'm sorry, Toshma. Ma hein meviin par echad. Rabbi Shimon Omar shnei parim. So what do they bring? We don't know what the case is because we're quoting the Brisa. The Brisa just says, what is it that they bring in this circumstance? They're going to bring 1 bull offering, and Rabbi Shimon says they're going to bring 2 bull offerings. Now we have to figure out what case it would be, knowing that what we know about Rabbi Yehuda's opinions and Rabbi Shimon's opinions. That Rabbi Shimon would say 2 and Rabbi Yehuda would say 1. So, but my asking, what is this case? If, let's say, we were talking about a case where 7 tribes did the sin, so Rabbi Shimon timnaya bayo, that wouldn't make sense because Rabbi Shimon, we know, is going to hold that you need 8 sacrifices, 7 for the tribes plus 1 for the Beis Din. Ella dechata shevet echad, must be there's only 1 tribe doing the Avera. Okay, so b'mai. So what would be the circumstance? That's why Rabbi Shimon's going to say only 2, right? You're going to bring 1 plus the Beis Din. So what would be the circumstance? Ibahoros Beis Dino, if it was just that 1 tribe that violated and it was their own Beis Din, so Rabbi Shimon leislei. So then Rabbi Shimon would say that you don't bring it at all, because only Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds that a private tribe's, single tribe's Beis Din rules that you have to bring an offering. Everybody else holds that you need the real Sanhedrin. Therefore, this case must be a case where you've got the whole full Sanhedrin. So therefore, V'tanakama money. So now we've established that this is the perfect case. The full Sanhedrin is ruling, and only one of the tribes is doing it. How do we know that? Based on what Rabbi Shimon holds. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon's good. That's the only circumstance Rabbi Shimon could hold that you have to bring 2. Okay, now, V'tanakama money. Now we know the Tanakama, whoever this first opinion is, we know he says you're only going to bring 1 offering. Who is this? Rabbi Meir, who are you going to say? It's Rabbi Meir, who always says that you need to bring 1. Haruba boy, he says nobody brings anything until you've got a majority. And if there's only 1 tribe that did the Avera, Rabbi Meir's not going to say you bring anything. Elav Rabbi Yehuda, must be it's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, right? And Rabbi Yehuda says that 1 tribe brings. Okay, so therefore, if that's the case, so then you see clearly that the other tribes don't have to bring. And that answers our answer. So Amri Hachab, no, that's not what's going on here. I'll tell you what's going on here. Kigon shechatu shisha shvatim vehein ruban shel kahal. So this could be the case of where 6 tribes do the Avera and they compromise the majority of the congregation. For Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and it's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's opinion. Right? Because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is of the opinion of Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, Mishmo, in the name of Rabbi Meir, Chatu Shisha, V'hein Rubo Shokal, if it's 6 and it's the majority of the congregation, O Shiva, Afal Pisha, Ein Rubo Shokal, or it's 7, even though it's not the entire congregation, maybe in power, they're going to bring 1 bull. And Rashi points out that even in that circumstance, that is going to be a circumstance where Rabbi Shimon is going to suggest that still you're going to bring 2. Right, we're still going to because he holds that even though he normally holds that each shevet who violates is going to bring their own, that's only when it's a majority. Therefore, if there's 6 tribes that are doing it and they're not 7, that's only 1 offering plus the Beis Din. So he's going to say under that circumstance 2 offerings, which is really the big chiddush because the Gemara does not specify any of that. Right, so therefore that's what's going on here. Doesn't prove our point. We wanted to know again. What would Rabbi Yehuda hold in a circumstance where 1 tribe followed the Sanhedrin? Would all of the other tribes have to do it? So, Toshmal, come and listen, we'll try again. Rabbi Yehuda says, Shevet she'asa b'horas Beis Dino. Let's say 1 tribe follows its own Beis Din. So, also Shevet Chayv Ushar Kol Shvatim Pturim. That tribe has to bring it. Nobody else does. U'ba'oras Beis Din Hagadol, but if it was following the ruling of the big Beis Din, then everybody else would have to bring Shema. That's very clear, right? That price is very clear. Amar Rashi says not only that, but Masnis and Nami Daiko, you can even really, now that we know that's law, I'll go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah really sounds that way also because Diktani, the Mishnah says, V'asa also a shevet al pihem, when Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is being quoted in the Mishnah, it says that if that one tribe follows their own beis din, also a shevet chayiv, then that beis din is liable. Ushara kol hashvatim pturim, but all of the other ones are not. So lama li lemisne, why do I have to teach that last line? Ushar kol shvatim, uchar shvatim pturim. All of the other tribes are exempt. Ha tana also a shevet chayiv, because we already said that shevet is liable. So the answer is, if it came to tana also shevet chayiv, mi mela yadon ashar shvatim pturim. Once you told me that tribe is liable, of course the other ones are not. Ella hakmashmul. Rather, the point of the mission is to tell me the following: Debahoras beis dino hu deshar shvatim pturim. It's only in this case where their own beis din taught them that they are not, where only the one tribe is liable and nobody else is. Aval behoros beis din hagadol. But if it was the Sanhedrin, according to Rabbi Yehuda, and one tribe did it, afilu shar shvatim chayavin, everybody else would have to bring it as well. Shma mina. So that's the conclusion, that under all circumstances, even if as long as you have one shevet that does it, then you're going to need, everybody's going to have to bring their own. Everybody's going to bring the same. Iboilu, new question. Shevet echad also boras based in Hagodol. Okay, let's say you have one tribe, and the big Sanhedrin told everybody the wrong law. What happens then? Rabbi Shimon mimaisi olo. According to Rabbi Shimon's opinion, who says both the congregation and the beis din bring, under this circumstance, would they bring anything at all? Right? What would be Rabbi Shimon's perspective on this case? So, Toshma, come and listen. Mahe meviin, what is it that they bring? Okay, this is the Bryce that we quoted before, and we are going to point out again that this is talking about a circumstance where one shevet is only one shevet did the avera. So mahin mivin, what do they bring? Par echad, one bull. Rabbi Shimon says shnei parim, two bulls. But Mayaskin, what are we dealing with here? It's in parentheses. Even though we normally say parentheses, we don't read. This circumstance I see is a circumstance where we put it in because the earlier volumes did not have it, but it is kind of important. So what are we dealing with here? If we were talking about 7 tribes did the avera shnei parim, why would it be two? Why would it be 2 bulls? Shmona parim, then it would be 8, according to Rabbi Shimon. Ella dechata shevet echad. It's talking about where only one tribe did it. Now, based on what did they do it? If it was based on their own tribes, based in, so Rabbi Shimon leislei, then Rabbi Shimon would say nobody brings it because he doesn't hold of that. El baras beis din gadol. Rather, we're talking about where the main Sanhedrin ruled on it. So therefore, that's our conclusion. Should be our conclusion. Rabbi Shimon says if one tribe follows beis din is going to bring, and the one tribe is going to bring. V'tizbira. Now, is that a reasonable conclusion? Tanakama, money. Who is the first opinion in this case, right? We're wondering that ourselves. Rabbi Meir, if it was Rabbi Meir, so who's telling you to bring one bull, right? Who's the opinion that says one bull? If it's Rabbi Meir, haruba boy, you need the majority of the congregation. Rabbi Meir doesn't require anybody to bring anything until you've got a majority of the congregation. So Rabbi Yehuda, if it's Rabbi Yehuda, shar shvatim nami maisu, then all of the other tribes should also bring, as we just said. So money. So whose opinion is it? It's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. We came to the conclusion before. It was Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's opinion. Uchedetanya, like we learned in a brisa. Tosh, like we had. Sorry, is that the end of that? Right, Ella? Yeah, that's the. Uchedetanya, right? Like we had learned before, right? That we had said this is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's opinion. And therefore, like we learned before, that this was talking about 6 tribes and the majority, and then we said Rabbi Shimon, under that circumstance, holds that if it's 6 tribes, then you bring 2. It proves nothing about what Rabbi Shimon would hold if only one tribe sinned. So we don't have an answer. So we'll try again. Toshma, come and listen to a new proof from our Mishnah. The Chacham say li'olam einu chayav ela horas beis din hagadol. Right? The Chacham disagree. Rabbi Yehuda says if their own tribes beis din rules, Rabbi Yehuda says that they have to bring. But everybody else says the Chacham say no, not true. Man Chachamim. Who are these Chachamim? Rabbi Meir, if you're saying to Rabbi Meir, Ruba, boy, they're not going to bring anyway because they need a majority. And so there's never going to be a circumstance, an individual based in. Who cares about an individual based in? One tribe is never going to bring it. El Alav Rabbi Shimon, this must be Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Shmami no. Therefore, you see that it's clear. Rabbi Shimon's opinion is that since it's their own tribe's based in, that's why they don't bring. But if it was the based in Hagadol, they would bring, and that is the conclusion. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. So according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, right? Why is it would be that one tribe would be bringing? One tribe's bringing because the Torah says a congregation brings it, which means that they hold Shevet Echad Ikrei Kahal. They say that one tribe is called a congregation. And so therefore, the congregation is, the pasuk says the congregation brings it, the congregation brings it, even if it's only one tribe. So Minalu, where do they know that from? Where's the pasuk that tells you that one tribe is a congregation? So Amri Dichsiv, so Minalu, so Amri Dichsiv, we say the pasuk says, by the Bnei Yisrael were being attacked by many enemies. They were being attacked by, who was it at the time? It was during Yehoshaphat's time. It was not Amalek at that time. It was, do we quote the pasuk here? I don't remember. There were many enemies that were surrounding Yehoshaphat. Gathered all of the people together and said, "Let's daven in the Beis Hamikdash." Okay, so that's what they did. So Vayamod Yehoshaphat beKahal Yehuda of Yerushalayim, right? So Yehoshaphat and the congregation of Yehuda, they gathered together in Yerushalayim in the Chatzar Beis Hashem HaChadasha, in the new courtyard of Hashem. So we have a whole few things to point out. First of all, the main point that we want to point out, it's Kahal Yehuda. It is the congregation of Yehuda, which means Yehuda is one tribe, and it's a Kahal. Right. There's our proof. Now, my Chadash, what do you mean they gather in the new courtyard? What's this new courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash? Rabbi Yochanan says, Shechitshu Dvarim, they made a new rabbinic enactment to that day, right? In order to add extra Kedusha, I guess they made an extra stringency in order to be able to seek Hashem's help. V'amru, they said as follows, Tvul Yom, if somebody goes to the mikvah, we know that somebody who's tameh cannot come into this courtyard. But if somebody goes to the mikvah that day, they're not tameh anymore. Now they cannot eat truma. They still have to wait till nightfall before they can eat truma. They can eat karbanos. They made a rule. They said, if you not only can't you eat those things, but al yikanes lebemachan levia, you can't come into the courtyard, the Ezras Nashim area of the Beis Hamikdash while you are a Tful Yom. Once you go to the mikvah that day, you have to wait till nightfall. So that was their rule. Maskiflo Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. Now Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says that's your proof because it says Yehuda was a congregation. Mimai, how does that prove anything? Dilma Shani Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is different. Why? Dehava Nami Binyamin. Yerushalayim is actually split between the tribal portions of Yehuda and Binyamin. There's a portion of the Beis Hamikdash when we get to Meseches, it might be in Zvachim, but in Kachim we're going to learn that the Beis Hamikdash area courtyard is actually split in between Yehuda and Binyamin, with certain sections in their tribe and the other. So therefore, how do you know that Kahal means one tribe? Maybe Kahal means two tribes. So rather I'll bring a different pasuk. Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says, the pasuk says, Vayomer Elai Hineni Mafrecha v'Hirbisicha. Right, I'm going to multiply you, and I will make you many. Unesaticha lekal amim. I will make you I will give you a congregation of nations. This is a promise that Hashem is giving to Yaakov Avinu.
Yeah, I remember it's from the parsha.
A parsha.
One of the parshas.
Yes, it is in one of the parshas, and so it is in the end of Sefer Bereshis, right? Which parsha is a good question. Perek. It's in Perek 48, which probably puts us towards the end, right? So we might be Vayechi, Miketz or Vayechi. We're at the very end. And in any event, no, we're before that. No, it's going to be earlier because Man is Yoled Le. Who is the one that was born after that promise? So, Man is Yoled Le Hahishasa. Who was born at that time after that promise? Binyamin. Binyamin was born next. So he already had 11 children. Hashem promises another nation, a Kahal, and then Binyamin's born. Shema Mina, so you see clearly Binyamin is a Kahal. One tribe is a Kahal. That's proof. No, Hachikama Rachmona. Maybe this is what the Torah means. Misyalid loch hashta Kahal achrin. Because this is what, there's still explanation. This is what the Torah is saying. Misyalid loch hashta Kahal achrina. You're going to have another Kahal. and therefore one tribe is a Kahal. Amar le Rav Shava le Rav Kahana. Rav Shava says to Rav Kahana, no, that's not how you would mean it. Maybe this is what Hashem was telling Yaakov. When you finally have Binyamin, then you will have 12 tribes, which is what a Kahal is. All 12 tribes. That might be what it means. Amar he said, that can't be. You're trying to tell me that 12 tribes is a Kahal, 11 is not? That can't be, because when we talked before about Yehoshaphat, it was Yehuda and Binyamin by themselves. That was for sure. We didn't know if it was one tribe or two tribes, but definitely two tribes is a Kahal. So therefore, it can't be 11 tribes, is not. So therefore, this pasuk is showing you one tribe is a Kahal. Okay, so that's where Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda know that when the Torah says the Kahal has to bring a sacrifice, we know it's one tribe. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Shimon Amar Rishmin said, "Mal Talmud Lomar Upar Sheni Ben Bakar Tikach Lechatas." The second bull offering, right? You should take as a sin offering. So, what is that pasuk? This is talking about. This is when the Levium were sanctified to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. It says that they took the second bull and as a chatos. So, what is it teaching me that there's a second one? Im l'lamed shem shnaim, to tell me that there are two bulls. Look for a number. The pasuk already says v'asa es ha'echad chatas v'es ha'echad olah l'Hashem. One bull is for a sin offering. One bull is for a burnt offering. I don't need it to tell me that there are two bulls because I already told. I can count. Ella yachol tehei ne'achalas chatas l'Leviim. I might have thought that, like normal, when a person brings a korban chatos, right, the Leviim get to eat it. So I might have thought the Leviim get to eat this sin offering as well. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, "Upar sheni." It's the second bull, meaning sheni laola. It's the second one after the ola. Ma'ola lo ne'achelas. Just like the burnt offering cannot be eaten, av chatas lo ne'achelas. Even the sin offering cannot be eaten. So that is the rule by that offering that sanctified the Levium. Kayotzebo, we're trying to, why are we going on this tangent? Because we're going to see, we'll get back to our topic. Kayotzebo, similarly, Amar Rabbi Yossi says as follows, Haboim mehashvi hagola, when the people returned from the exile, for the Beis Hamikdash was being rebuilt the second time, and the people came out of Bavel back into Eretz Yisrael, Hikrivu olos leilokei Yisrael. They brought, this is what Pasuk says, they brought burnt offerings to the God of Israel. Parim shnei masar, they brought 12 bulls, etc., and a whole bunch of other korbanos, which we'll mention in a moment. Now, it says Hakol Ola, all of them were burnt offerings. Now, 1 second, Hakol Ola Salkadaitach, is that really how you can interpret Pasuk? They all were burnt offerings. Efshar Shechatas Ola, right? How could it say in the Pasuk that they were brought 12 bulls as chatas offerings? All of them are olas. That doesn't make sense. They're either chatas or they're an ola. Ella, rather, we have to explain it. Hakol ke'ola. All of them are like olas. Ma ola lo ne'acheles, av chatas lo ne'acheles. Just like these offerings were not, an ola cannot be eaten, these offerings were also likewise not eaten in the same way as the ones that the Levium brought to sanctify them. These were not as well. The Tanyas, we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Yehuda says, Alavodos kochavim heviyum. What was the reason why they brought these offerings? These people came and they brought these 12 offerings. The answer is, because they brought them because they were atoning for the sin of idolatry. Okay? V'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel, Avodos kochavim she'asu b'mei tzidkiyahu. They had some old-fashioned atoning to do from a long time ago. In Tzidkiyahu's time, before the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, the Jewish people as a congregation worshipped idols. They were obligated to bring this offering because the congregation worshipped idols. They never brought it. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Now the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, so they come on in and they bring the offerings that they owed from before. That's what it's from. So Bishlam Rabbi Yehuda Mishkachas La Lahani Shnei Masar Chatos. Now we get into our point. How is the community bringing 12 offerings? Let's take it. Fine. I understand according to Rabbi Yehuda, where you get 12, right? Kegon dechatu shnei masar shvatim, right? 12 tribes sinned. Demaisu shnei masar seirim. They're going to bring 12 of the goats and 12 bulls. That's what they're supposed to bring. Inami, or else, you can explain dechatu shiva shvat. There could have been 7 tribes that did it. Ushara inech bigreira, and the other ones are bringing it anyway because they get dragged along. Ulu Rabbi Shimon nami mishkachasla. Now, according to Rabbi Shimon, who says that you have each of the tribes are bringing plus basin, Kigon dechatu echad asar shvatim. Let's say 11 tribes are the ones who did it. Then you're going to bring 11 tribes. Umaisu echad asar seirim. They're going to bring 11. V'idach the Beis Din. The last one's going to be the one Beis Din brings. Great. El Rabbi Meir, Damar Beis Din Mevi and Velo Tzibor. According to Rabbi Meir, he says they only bring one. Beis Din brings it. So then Shnei Masar Hechi Mishkachos Lei. Where? How do you get 12? Why are they bringing 12 korbanos? So the answer is Kigon dechatu v'hadar chatu v'hadar chatu. What they did is they sinned and then they stopped singing, and then they did it again, and then they did it again, and then 12 times, right? Because each time would be another bar, another seir, and they did it over and over and over. Okay, now, on this point, let's digress from the number of offerings for a moment to talk about exactly what we just came to, conclusion we just came to. How are these people bringing it? They're not the ones who did the Avera. This Avera happened during the first Beis HaMikdash. 70 years of exile, they come back and now they're bringing a korban. It's not the same people. So Rav Papa says, Ki gemiri chatos shemesu ba'aleha b'misa. So the answer is, normally the case is that if a sin offering is supposed to be brought, we have a halacha l'moshe misina. It's not written in the Torah, but it's our oral tradition, that if a person has a sin offering to bring, and the person dies before he gets to bring his sin offering, that sin offering dies. It does not get brought as a sacrifice. It cannot be left in the fields. It must die. So now that rule is only on an individual's offering, not on a communal offering. Hani mili biyachid, avalo b'tzibor, not on a communal offering. Why? Lefish ein misa b'tzibor, because the tzibor never dies, right? It's like the old question, right? You got a table and one leg breaks, and you replace it, and then the second leg breaks, you replace it, and the third leg, and then eventually all four legs are broken, and then the top breaks and you replace it. Is it a new table or is it the same old table? The answer is, it's the same old table. As one person dies, the next person joins the congregation. It's the same, the congregation never ends. So therefore, you can bring a communal offering for that community, even if it's not the same people. Okay, so now, minole l'Rav Papa. So how does Rav Papa know that that's the case? These are not the same people. So, if you're going to explain, take a look at the pasuk. Tachas avosecha yuvanecha, that you can bring. How do you know that the tzibor never dies? Because the pasuk says, instead of the fathers, the children come. So therefore, they just replace the fathers. Then, if that's the case, why, if children can replace their fathers, is not the rule by an individual's korban either? Ella. Dukya de Rav Papa Meseir de Rosh Chodesh. Rather, he derives it from the fact, Rav Papa derives it from the goat offering that's brought as a sin offering on Rosh Chodesh. Damar Rahman, because the pasuk says on Rosh Chodesh, Maisi mi trumas elishka. Where does the money come from to pay for the sin offering on Rosh Chodesh? You go to the chamber that we collected all the half shkalim and things, those brought from people, and we take some of the money. Now, then you buy it. Now, v'ham Maisi luhu mi Yisrael. So you're going to bring it from the Jewish people. V'hanach defaishi hechi maisu. He says, yeah, but it could be that some of the money that you have in your hand came from collections of people who already died. And now you've got some dead people in this Rosh Chodesh offering. Clearly you see that that's not going to stop you. So the tzibor never dies. El shmamina chatas shemesu ba'aleha b'tzibor karva. Even if some of the owners of the korban chatas have died, they're going to, nevertheless, in a community, you can still bring it. Well, me dummy, is that really similar? Sir Rosh Chodesh, Dilma lo maisu mitzibor. When it comes to the Rosh Chodesh offering, you don't know somebody died, right? I mean, you literally pick up the money, it could be full of money that nobody died, right? Doesn't mean anything. Aval hacha, but here, vaday maisu. Here, it's 70 years later, for sure people who were in the original offering have died. Ella, time of Rav Papa. Rav Papa's explanation is from Mehacha, from a different source. The pasuk says, "Kaper la'amcha Yisrael asher padisa Hashem." You should atone Hashem to your nation that you have redeemed. Okay, so this pasuk is in Dvarim that talks about the egla rufa. So in that calf that gets decapitated, so it says that part of the declaration that the people make is that you should forgive the Jewish nation that you have redeemed from Egypt. So that means this atonement would be able to atone for the people who came out of Egypt. Well, they're all dead. So therefore you see, it says from the pasuk, it says, since that you redeemed it, so therefore, even if some of the people have already died, the community goes on, and you can still bring a sin offering for the community. Me dummy, that's not similar. Hasam kulo isinun mi gav de mechapra achayim migo de mechapra achayim mechapra nami amesim. He says, 1 second. When it comes to this korban, everybody here that it's atoning for is alive. Once this atonement works for the people who are alive, fine, it can also work for people who died. But elahacha, but in the case of these offerings for the idolatry that happened during Tzidkiyahu's time, mihavu chayim, was anybody left alive? Nobody's left. So the answer is no. Inachinami, yeah, people were still alive. There was a lot of people that were still alive from the time of the first Beis Hamikdash. Tichsiv, because the pasuk says, "V'rabim mehakohanim v'halevim v'roshei avos." Right. That what happened was that many of the people who were alive during the times of the first Beis Hamikdash came back and saw the second Beis Hamikdash, and they were crying because the second Beis Hamikdash was built out of wood. It was a much lesser structure than the first Beis Hamikdash originally, right? It got rebuilt by Herod and was huge. But the original construction, when they came back and built the Beis Hamikdash, was much smaller. So they were, okay, like, we got a Beis Hamikdash, but it's a little shame we still recognize what we lost. Whereas all the brand new people who had never seen the first Beis Hamikdash, they were so excited. We got a Beis Hamikdash. They were joyous and happy. So, okay, v'dilma mu'atin havu. Maybe they were the minority. Right? Maybe the people who were from before were the minority. V'lo rabim, and not the majority. Havu. Haksiv, no, the pasuk says, Truas hasimcha lekol bachi ha'am v'akol nishma ad limerachok. They couldn't hear the voice of the cheers and happiness over the crying. So many people were so many more people were upset than the people were happy. So therefore, you see that there were a lot of people that were there from before. That's why. So you had a whole bunch of old people, right? The majority of the people.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing. It was such a small number of people that came back to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, 42,000 or so. And it was a very small number. And clearly all of them were like 80 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have
or at least 83, right?
Yeah.
They'd be bar mitzvah to do the Avera and have it count. So the majority of these 42,000 people were over 83. You can imagine what that population was like.
Wow.
So the answer is V'hamezidin havu, but still, those people did avodah zarah back then. They were on purpose, right? They weren't doing it on negligent or based in. Shouldn't be bringing the korban. So the answer is Hora Shavo Sha'ah Haisa. It was a momentary law. There was no real reason they had to bring these korbanos. The Navi said, bring these korbanos. They brought those korbanos. Hachinami mistavra. Actually, that makes good sense. To elo temach. Because if you don't say that, Elim Tisha V'Shisha, there were rams, 96 rams, Kvasim Shivim V'Shiva, there were sheep, there were 77 of them. Connected me, what are those for? Why do they bring all those? Ella, rather, Horosh, so it was a momentary rule that they had to do. Hachanami Horosh, so therefore the other ones, the 12 also, don't ask questions. It's just, that was what the Navi told them to bring. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Now let's talk about this issue of person dying and whether their sacrifice can be brought. Meis echad minat tzibur chayavin echad be based in Turin. If you have a par helam davar situation, this bull that the congregation is liable for when based in teaches, that's called par helam davar. So what happens if one member of the congregation dies? The bull must go on. But if one member of the based in dies, then it's exempt. So Montana, whose opinion is this? Amar of Chisda, Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. So this is a name Rabbi Zera, and name Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Rav. Rabbi Meir, it must be Rabbi Meir's opinion, because Damar based in Mevi and Velot Tzibur. Because the Bastin brings not the congregation. Therefore, you're only worried about if the members of the Bastin are still alive. If a member of the Bastin dies, then the whole thing's out. But why also is the whole thing not out if a member of the congregation dies? The answer is because we don't care about the congregation because they're not bringing the sacrifice. Must be Rabbi Meir's opinion. And that's why if one of the Tzibur dies, they're still obligated to Hakayim Kule, because Kule Bastin, because the whole Bastin who has the obligation of bringing the sacrifice, they're still alive. Meis Echad Mi Bastin, if one of the members of the Bastin dies, then you're exempt. Because then it would be a sin offering that one of the partners has died, and you wouldn't bring. Now, umishum hachi pturin, and because of that, they'd be exempt. Maskif lo Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, I have a question. V'nokma Rabbi Shimon. Why don't you say it's Rabbi Shimon's opinion? Damar based in im hatzibur. He says that the based in brings it together with the congregation, both of them. If the tzibur, somebody from the tzibur dies, why? Then you still bring it. Why? Dein tzibur mesim, because we had the thing that we learned before that the people of the congregation can't die, right? Even if one member of the congregation does it, you still go ahead. Mi based in Turin. But if one of the Beis Din dies, so then you're exempt. Why? Because the Beis Din is not a Kahal. It's not a Tzibur. So Kedamrinon, like we said, Dechatas Shutfin, that if you have it, because the Beis Din is just a partnership. It's not a tzibur in the same way. It's not a kahal, like we said, but it's a partnership. And we said that Dechatas Shutfin, so it is it's a sin offering of partners. And if one of the partners dies, then the sin offering cannot be brought. The thing is, the answer is no, because we know that according to Rabbi Shimon, a sin offering that belongs to partners does not die. It can be brought. Titania, we learn in a brisa. Parvis Irshel Yom Kippur. Let's say we have the bull and the goat of Yom Kippur. And if we remember back to Shavuos, I know it's like PTSD, but if we remember back to Masechet Shavuos, we knew
I can't sleep every night after that.
That was a circumstance. We had offerings that were brought to atone for the sin of people who are impure coming into the Beis Hamikdash. Right?
Yeah.
One was brought for the Kohanim, bull, and the goat was brought to atone for all of the people for the same avera. Now, let's say she'avdu. Let's say they lose one of those animals or both of those animals. V'hifresh acherim tachteim. Right? The show must go on. So they bring other animals instead. Then after Yom Kippur comes, you find the original animals. What do you do with them? Yamusu kulan. They die. Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you can put them out in the pasture until they develop a blemish and sell them. Why? Because a sin offering of the community does not die. Now, that's fine, the seir, because that's a communal offering, but the bull is atoning for the Kohanim. The Kohanim are a partnership. It was their offering. So therefore, you see that even a partnership, the animal does not die. Amar le Rav Yosef, the Kohanim Kamart. He says, Kohanim you're talking about? Shani Kohanim, Dikru Kahal. Kohanim are a congregation. They're not partners, they're a congregation. How do I know that Kohanim are a congregation? The Pasuk says, Ala Kohanim, V'kol am hakahal yichaper. Right? That this is going to atone for the Kohanim and all of the nation, all of the community, it will atone. So therefore, we see that Kohanim are a congregation onto Vav Amid Beis. Ela me'ata. Now, if that's true, Naisi par behora. So then, if Kohanim are indeed a kahal, then what happens if a Beis Din rules and then the Kohanim follow it? Do they have to bring a bull for that, like the other tribes do? Before you say yes, tfeilahu shvatim, then it's not going to work. You're going to have too many tribes. Because we said if all of the congregation brings it, you're bringing a maximum of 12. If you add the Kohanim, you've got 13 tribes. So that can't be. Ella Amar of Acha Rabbi Yaakov. So Rav Acha Rabbi Yaakov says, Shivto shel Levi lo ikru kahal. The answer is you got to take Levi out. Levi's not a congregation.
I'll leave then.
Yes. Well, just as a congregation, right? You're not a kahal in the sense of congregation. Why? Because the pasuk says, Hineni mafrecha v'hirbisicho nesaticha lekalamim. I'm going to, Hashem says, I'm going to spread your promise to Yaakov again, right? That he's going to make you a kahal of nations. So that means that kol sheyesh lo achuza ikre kahal. Any congregation, any shevet that has an inheritance in the land of Israel, they're called a kahal because that was the promise. V'chol she'ein lo achuza, but if it doesn't have a land, which the Levim did not, lo ikre kahal. They're not a nation. They're not a kahal, not a congregation. So well, if you're going to take the Kohanim also didn't have. So im kain chasri lehu yud beis shvatim. Now you're too little, right? You take the Levim out, you don't have 12. So Rabbi says Ephraim and Menashe, Keruv and Shimon Yili. The answer is Yosef is 2 tribes. Ephraim and Menashe. Now you're back up to 12, right? Because it says Ephraim and Menashe will be like Reuven and Shimon. Now we have to discuss whether Ephraim and Menashe are 2 tribes or not. Is that true or is that not true? Amar Rava, the pasuk says, Al Shem Achehem Yikru Benachal Lasam, that they are going to be called like their brothers amongst the inheritance, which means Lenachala Hukshu, that they are like all of the other brothers in the sense that they all inherited land in Israel. There's a portion for Ephraim and a portion for Menashe. Velovid Lavar Acher, but they're not as far as any other rules. Therefore, Yosef is 1 tribe that brings 1 bull, according to all of these opinions, not Ephraim and Menashe.
What was the reason that us Levim didn't get a place in Israel?
Hashem wanted the Levium, who teach Torah, to spread out and be in every shevet. So therefore, the Leviim and the Kohanim get to go to everywhere, so that you have people who are teaching Torah everywhere.
So we're basically spread out.
That's correct, right? We had lived in the Yer Miklat. We left in certain cities of Leviim.
We were enslaved in Egypt.
Correct. So therefore, we're masters of the spiritual. Therefore, we got to spread out in all the tribes. Now, Vilo, you're telling me Ephraim and Menashe are not separate tribes for anything else? V'hachalukin b'degolim. You go look in Parshas B'midbar, and it tells you where everybody camped. Ephraim and Menashe are separate camps. So the answer is Kanachalon Kach Haniyason. The answer is because the camp is related to how they got their portions in Eretz Yisrael. So if they have separate portions in Eretz Yisrael, they got a separate camp. And the other answer is if you didn't, you would have only, if you didn't count Ephraim and Menashe separately, you would have only had 11 tribes around the outside. If that would have been the case, one of the flags, each flag, on each side there's a flag that represented 3 tribes. One of the flags would have only represented 2 tribes. That would have made one flag deficient. Therefore, that's not what we wanted. So therefore, they counted Ephraim and Menashe as separate tribes under those circumstances. Yeah, but v'hachalukim b'nesiim, you go take a look in Parshas Naso, and all of the tribes are bringing their also even in the Meraglim and all these places, right? We have the Nesiim, they had their own Nasi. So how do you explain that? So the answer is Hahu lachlok kavod l'nesiim. That is only because Moshe Rabbeinu, they did have their own Nasi. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give honor to all the Nesiim. The Tanya, we learn in Brisa. Shlomo also Zayin Yemei Chanukah. Shlomo HaMelech made a party for the first Beis HaMikdash for 7 days. That's all that's necessary when you're going to consecrate a Beis HaMikdash. You need 7 days. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu consecrate the Mishkan for 12 days then? The answer is K'dei lachlok kavod l'nesiim, just to give the Nesiim the honor. So that's why Ephraim and Menashe got to get up, just to give honor. Okay, now, therefore, Ephraim and Menashe are tribes sometimes, but not in other times. My Havi Allah. Okay, what is the conclusion to our question, whether the sin offering of partners it dies or not? Right? What's our conclusion on that? So Tashma, come listen. Tanya, we learn in our Brisa. Rabbi Shimon says, Chamesh chatos mesos. There are 5 circumstances when a sin offering dies. Right? You cannot offer it; it must die. 5 are. These are halacha l'Moshe miSinai, rules from Hashem to Moshe. No reasons or proofs in the psukim for it. Number 1, vlad chatos. Number 1, you have an animal that was consecrated as a sin offering, and it gives birth. You don't need that other animal, but you can't use that animal because it came from a chatos. The other animal dies. Tmuras chatos. Somebody says, I'd like to exchange this animal for this other chatos and exchange them. You're not allowed to exchange korbanos. If you exchange korbanos, they're both sanctified. The only thing is you don't need 2 korban chatos because you only did 1 avera. Therefore, the exchanged animal dies. V'chatos shemesu ba'aleha. You had an animal that was designated as chatos and the owner dies. Now you don't need it anymore, so it dies. Or we had the case that we had before. The animal gets lost. The owner brings a different animal. Now you find the original animal, and the animal dies. It was already atoned.
Was he found after he died or before he died? The other animal.
2 different cases. One is the case where the person dies, right, before the animal was sacrificed. The second was where he loses the animal, brings another one, and then finds the animal again.
Right? The animal he found was dead.
The animal is found alive, right? And then now you kill it, right? Well, you kill it by starving it. Basically, you close it up and you kill it and you let it starve.
She basically suffocated.
Starve it. V'chatos she'avra shnasa, and also if you have a korban chatos that was designated, but then it gets too old, right? Before he brings it, right? It turns 1 year old, then it's too old to bring, and now you can't bring it. Now, v'yata yachol lomar vlad chatos betzibur. Now, noting there's of these 5 cases, some of these can't apply to a communal offering. The offspring of a chatos can't apply to a communal offspring because she'ein tzibur mafrishin nekeva, because none of the community korban chatos are female. All communal offerings are for a chatos are always male animals. So therefore that doesn't apply. You can't also have a tmura of a communal animal either, because betzibur she'ein tmura betzibur, there's no such thing, right? A person, an individual, can try to exchange his animal. It doesn't work. Both become sanctified. But the Torah, when it talks about Tamura, uses a single language, the singular form, which indicates that rule only applies by animals that actually belong to one person. But if you have an animal that belongs to a tzibor and somebody says, I'd like to exchange, it doesn't do anything. Third of all, you can't have an animal where the owners died because tzibor, with a communal offering, shein tzibor mesim, because we said the congregation doesn't die. So that doesn't work. Okay, but there are two cases theoretically where a communal offering could die. Shenischapru ba'aleha, where they already brought an atoned animal, they already brought another animal because they lost the other one. Vusha avra shenasa, or they brought it and they designated it and it turned 1 year old. That could happen by a communal offering. So lo shamanu. So we don't know what the rule in those circumstances. Does it apply by a communal offering or not? So yachol yamusu, you might think that they should die. So Mart Yilmod Sosum Min Amafurish. So what we should do is we're going to learn the cases basically that we don't know what the halacha is from the ones we do know what the halacha is. Ma matzinu bevlad chatos tmuras chatos v'shemesu ba'aleha. So what do we know about the three that we do know? We know that if the offspring of a korban chatos or an exchanged korban chatos or a chatos where the owner died, so biyachid, those only apply to individuals. So dvarim amur by biyachid dvarim, those only talk about individuals. The lo b'tzibur, not the community. Therefore, afshnis chapru baleha usha avrosh nasa. Therefore, the other two, where we don't know the rule, should follow the same thing. We'll just say, hey, that's true of those cases, it's true of these. And so therefore, there's never a circumstance where a offspring that belongs to the community dies. B'yachid dvar mamurim v'lo b'tzibur, not only applies to the individual, not to the community. Now, when it comes to a partner's offering, which was the case that we were asking about, then most of these also don't apply. Partners never bring a female offering. Also, you can have you can't have with one, right? We know the case of the Tamura doesn't apply either, right? Even though the other cases could apply to it. Again, once we know the rule by two cases, let's learn from those two cases to the other three that we don't know about, and say that it doesn't apply to it only applies to an individual, doesn't apply to the partners. Okay, now but one second, we have a rule is that we can't. The reason why not all of these rules apply is because three of them are impossible. Two of them are possible. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me that the possible ones I learned from the impossible ones. That's not similar. Mm-hmm. So Reb Shimon bechad makom gemir. Reb Shimon means to say that no, the source for all of these comes from basically the same points, right? This is the same rule. The halach l'mosh misinai is a individual's offering can die, not a public one, not an offering. Therefore, all of these rules, whether they apply or they don't apply, the rule remains consistent across all of them. Hadron alach, horu based in, hadron alach, horu based in, hadron alach, horu based in, and we complete that parak.
Oh yeah.